This video is narrated by a computer-generated voice. This is because my real voice sounds like a bunged-up beaver with a bad German accent. Sorry. This tutorial is about playing Warmaster on Tabletop Simulator. It features numerous ways to speed up and facilitate gameplay, by showing options and tricks that may not be obvious to the new player. Chapter 1, The Battlefield. First, you need to purchase and start up Tabletop Simulator. Load a Warmaster table from the Steam Workshop, then import your units. This is explained in detail in an excellent tutorial by Kozikowskis. His video is linked in the descriptions of this tutorial, and its content is not repeated here for the most part. There is, however, a new way of importing your army, which will be covered later in this video. First order of business is to set your TTS measurement units to inches using the line menu on the left side of the screen. The Warmaster table uses inches as units, for what arcane reasons, no one knows. During play, the measurements will count as centimeters. The table, terrain pieces and unit assets are all scaled in this way. Note that some armies in the Steam Workshop have units scaled to both inches and centimeters, so measure them before importing units onto the battlefield. If you want to use the hidden deployment zones, set up inside the zones after choosing the corresponding color. To disable them after setup, click on zones on the left side of the screen, then click on the zones to make them disappear. Terrain is already in place when you use one of Martin's lovely Warmaster tables, which can be found in the Steam Workshop under the name Warmaster Table A to D. Alternatively, placeable terrain is found in the bags to the side of the generic Warmaster table, which is also available in the Steam Workshop under the name Warmaster Revolution Gaming Table. Links are in the descriptions of this video. Once an object, like terrain, is placed and you don't need to move it again, it makes sense to disable its interactivity, so that your rat swarms don't accidentally take a couple of trees with them on their death frenzy assault. Select any number of objects, then right-click, go to Toggles, then Toggle Lock. The selected objects will now be inert, and cannot be interacted with unless you toggle lock back on later. This can be applied to any object in play. Sometimes, you may want to enlarge your assets. To resize an object, right-click on it, and select Scale. This is helpful when creating terrain layouts, or to make your lucky command dice larger so the opponent can see your blunders better. Sometimes, you want to mark things on the battlefield. For quick doodles on the playing surface, use the Draw menu on the left. This is useful for battle reports, or drawing cheese. Cleanse the battlefield of inappropriate drawings by pressing Erase all drawn lines. Straight lines can also be drawn with the line function, which is useful for checking flanks, fallback areas, and line of sight. Text can also be placed on the playing surface using the text function. This can be used to designate fixed points on the battlefield, like objectives, or terrain pieces with special rules. You could also keep track of your losses by designating graveyards, and keep a running total of lost victory points. There might be some viewpoints you want to check regularly, like your dice tray or an overview of the battlefield. Press Ctrl and a number key to memorize the current camera position. Later, pressing Shift and the same number will return you to this viewpoint instantly. The frequent journey to your dice tray can, however, be avoided completely. Right-click next to the playing area, select Picture-in-Picture to generate a second screen. Maneuver yourself one final time to the dice tray, choose a nice vantage point, then lock the second screen in place by clicking on the little padlock. Once the view is locked, you can zoom off to the action on the table. To roll some dice, you can now interact with the second screen normally. Effing brilliant. Chapter 2. Tools. You need dice to play Warmaster. There are several faction-specific dice available to the side of the main playing area. Mark the dice you want to use, then copy and paste it into your playing area. If needed, you can create special versions of dice by scaling them to a different size, or giving them a different color. Select the dice in question, right-click, then click Color Tint. Choose an appropriate color, then roll your Skaven command tests with blocks of cheddar. To make rolling dice easier, the standard Warmaster table has a nifty dice tray that automatically sorts the results of any dice that come to rest on its surface. Be advised, however, that dice which are stacked on top of each other will not be included in the results. As a cherry on top of the dice tray cake, some tables also have this very useful dice rolling tool. It will roll any number of dice, generating them from an example dice you place in the middle. It will then present the results sorted by value, as a message in the middle of the screen, which will also get logged in the game log window on the lower left of the screen. The two hiccups to look for here are, first, it sometimes forgets to clear the last batch of dice rolled, and second, if you use the dice tray readout, keep in mind that the number facing up on the example dice in the middle will also be registered by the dice tray. So be sure to turn it to the one result, thus avoiding getting an auto hit with every roll. Sadly, this tool will not work with the picture-in-picture function. #sadface. If you need more space to roll dice, just unlock your dice tray, then move it over to this side, then scale it up and lock it again. You now have enough room for resolving your Dragon Ogre charge, you power gamer. The little tablet PC on the sideboard is actually a functioning web browser that is displaying the third-party Warmaster Army Selector website, and is also the reason for the two annoying prompts you have to click away each time you load up the Warmaster Table module. The Army Selector has saved many lives, and is totally awesome. The link is in the description. So if you cannot bring yourself to just tab out to an actual browser, you can fiddle around with those tablets instead. Have fun with that. And finally, to keep track of your breakpoint, there is this little gadget beneath your dice tray. Or just use some dice. Chapter 3, Setup and Gameplay. Importing your army can be done by making a custom object bag as is shown in Matthew Kozikowskis' video, which was mentioned in the beginning of this tutorial. A quicker way to set up your army is to save the army itself as a custom object. This allows you to pre-arrange your units into a specific formation, which will also be saved, along with any customization you applied before saving. Load the Army module from the TTS workshop. Arrange your army in a satisfactory manner and add things like descriptions, or other bells and whistles. When the army is ready to kick virtual 10mm assets, select every stand, right-click on any selected stand, then save as a custom object. You can now plonk down 40 units of Skaven in perfect formation, then spend the next 20 minutes watching your opponent fiddle around with his own deployment. You can label a unit with a custom name and description. Select the stands you want to label, then right-click, then click on the text fields on the bottom of the menu. The name text will pop up immediately when hovering over the unit, the description text will appear after a slight delay. Use the first line to differentiate between identical units, which helps to prevent open relationships between units during messy combats. This is also a good way to note the presence of magic items, or amusing status effects. The second line could be used for more in-depth information like unit stat lines, which can remind your opponent, or indeed yourself, of your unit's abilities without referencing the army list all the time. Another way to differentiate units is to use the color tint option, which is available through the right-click menu and selecting color tint. Descriptions and color tints will be saved along with the unit when creating custom objects, either when saving the army, or when creating a bag of units. So it makes sense to do all this once, before your first game in a league. At long last, you may want to actually move your units across the battlefield. Measuring movement distances can be done by emulating a real-life measuring tool, of which there are 3 present. Often, it is quicker to hold the Tab key, while moving a unit, which will show the exact distance the selected stand is moved. Notice that the distance is only shown for the stand that you actually clicked on, even when picking up several stands at once. Be sure to pick up multiple stands by the one stand that will move the farthest. This behavior can also be toggled on permanently. Select the whole army. Then go to Toggles, then select Measure Movement. During gameplay, you will notice a natural tendency for any grouping of units to turn into an unsightful mess. This may cause OCD problems for power gamers, but even the most tolerant player might manage to jumble up his units beyond usability. Rather than puzzling everything back together by hand, you can reorganize a unit by selecting its remnants, pick them up by holding the left mouse button, then pressing the 1 or 3 key. This will neatly arrange the unit into line or column formation. If your wolf chariots have suffered a turnover, you can also press the F key to get them back on wheels. If you really effed up, and can't repair a situation, you can always click on the undo button at the top menu. This will cause the whole table to be loaded in for each step backwards, however. This will take a significant amount of time, and should be a last resort. Tracking wounds can be done with dice, or the dedicated wound counter. Both can be set to a specific value by right-clicking on them. Dice can be increased or decreased in value by pressing the Q or E keys. This was a collection of hopefully helpful tips on improving your games of Warmaster on Tabletop Simulator. More videos may appear on this channel in the future. If you leave a comment, click like, or subscribe, it will boost my self-esteem tremendously, and probably make me a YouTube millionaire. So feel free to help me quit my day job. Goodbye, and have a nice day.